Welcome to the Christian Contractor Podcast.
Christian Contractor Podcast.
A show created for kingdom-driven Christian contractors that are focused on scaling their business in God's name while positively impacting the world around them. If you're ready to ascend from a contractor to a purpose-driven business owner, we're here to serve you. Here's your host, Brandon Guthrie.
Increase your sales closing rate to 50% with these 3 surprising life hacks. What's up? I'm Brandon Guthrie with Dream Design Labs here on the Christian Contractor Podcast, where our mission is to help Christian contractors turn their business into their ministry and flourish it in the name of God with biblical principles and righteous marketing so that they can be a light in the darkness. Marketing doesn't have to be hard. You just need the right tools and the right heart to serve. Thanks for tuning in. I'm super excited to have Josh Mathis of Sales Transformation Group with me today. Josh, welcome and thank you for being here.
Thank you, Brandon. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Dude, yes, this is awesome. This is huge, big time. Dude, I appreciate your time. Josh, I know you're super busy. You're out there closing deals, helping transform people's lives. And it's a beautiful thing. So I really appreciate and value your time right here and right now. And before we jump into the value bombs, give us your story, man. Who are you? Where have you been? And how did you get here?
That's a good question. I'll kind of give you the 30,000 foot view on that. My name is Josh Mathis. I'm 35 years old. I live in Greenville, South Carolina. I've been in sales now for about 13 years. I graduated with 2 degrees from Clemson University in behavioral psychology and business management. So I graduated in 2010. I started working at Verizon. That was my first real job. Prior to that, though, right before I got into the real world, I didn't have any responsibilities, wasn't married, didn't have any kids, didn't have a real job yet. So I was kind of like a nomad. I traveled around the nation. I lived in 12 different cities in 3 years and kind of slept on friends' couches and lived in San Francisco. I lived in Austin, Texas, New York, Boston, Atlanta, Charlotte, Miami, Oregon, and made my way back to Charleston, and then finally ended up back in Greenville, South Carolina. Finally got a real job then, started at Verizon Wireless. That's my first kind of cutting my teeth experience working in the sales world. Got some really good training. Learned more in the first 6 months of working at Verizon than I did the entire experience of 4 years in higher education at Clemson. Got some really good sales training. Worked there for about 2.5 years, and then I started working for a company called Total Comfort Solutions, and I did some outside sales, selling preventive maintenance service agreements to commercial buildings like hospitals, schools, churches, industrial manufacturing buildings. Did that for about 3 years. And then I had a recruiter called me asking me about making a move for one of his clients. And wasn't an attractive offer, but he asked me like what would be like a potential opportunity that you would take a look at. And I explained it to him. A couple months later, he called me back and offered me a job to come work for him. So I started working as an executive recruiter. And meaning I would go out and find new clients that were looking to hire people. Then I would get an agreement signed and a retainer. And then I would turn around and go into the market and try to find that candidate for them. And then I would get paid 25% of whatever the first year's salary is in terms of a fee. So I did that for about 1.5 years. And I was like, hey, why am I doing this working for the man when I can do this on my own? So from there, I created my own recruiting company called Elevated Solutions. And I started recruiting salespeople. So I started doing that for technology companies and startup companies, starting with individual like entry-level salespeople. And then from there, I started scaling to doing more sales managers and VP of sales and things of that nature. So I did that for about 2.5 years. And then I sold that business a week before the pandemic hit. And that was incredibly great timing and God's grace, because had it been the week after, I'd be stuck like Chuck in a bad situation because the whole country shut down. The government forcibly told businesses to basically shutter, and I would have been stuck because hiring was frozen and nobody was hiring. So fortunately, I was blessed to be able to sell it, exit, Spent about 6 or 7 months really just at the lake house with my family and friends, kind of enjoying the fruits of my labor and the prosperity and abundance that created for me. And then I finally just kind of was like, I'm kind of bored and I need another challenge. I'm looking for the next step in the adventure of my life. And where does that take me? It took me into the high ticket sales world. And I started working with another company there and had a lot of success for about a year. And then I transitioned as VP of sales here at Sales Transformation Group in about August or so. So now I work full time with Sales Transformation Group, and my job is to be able to help transform business owners' lives and help take their business to the next level. So that's kind of the journey of how I got here. And yeah.
Dude, wow. That's huge. You've been around the block. You know a thing or two. 100%. Wow. You're recruiting. So I didn't even know about that. I think you maybe briefly mentioned it, but that's so much in more depth. And so your knowledge base on hiring has to be massive. So definitely that's going to have to be a whole episode in itself. So I'm just going to throw out there that we're going to have you back already for a second one on
Sure.
how to hire, because I know that is a huge crux for many business owners. So we'll circle back on that. And then obviously you know a thing or two at closing deals. So this is exactly why you're here today. And for people, the Christian contractors listening on to this podcast, they want to increase their conversion rates. They want to hear from someone like yourselves that's been there, done that. And that's why we're going to jump into these 3 epic questions. And I know Josh is going to be bringing some epic value. So once again, appreciate your time, Josh. Appreciate you being here. I know your time, every second is very valuable. So, everyone listening in, let's not take that lightly. So, okay. All right, guys, let's jump into the first question. This is going to be a good one. This is truly going to help you. You're out there, you're on the field, you're trying to close more deals. Maybe you're trying to train your team to close more deals all across the board. There's so many of you listening that can benefit from this. First question is, give us the juice, bro. What are the exact steps you take in a sale? What is your framework? I mean, come on. That's going to be like, even you dropping that for us is everyone listening should be licking their chops right now, because this is the good stuff. Let's hear what you got.
So the question is what is my sales process that I take a client or a potential client, a prospect through, right? For me, it's over probably thousands of calls, in-person meetings, and kind of trial and error, and getting kicked pretty hard, falling down, getting back up and dusting myself off. So a lot of this is some things that I've learned from other people, other mentors, trainers, coaches, other organizations, other trainings I've been a part of, and some of it just from my own life experience as well. But I think there's really 6 key steps in terms of a process that I follow. And these are important to follow in sequential order because they stack on top of each other. So there are 6 different types of questions that you ask, the right skilled questions at the right time, that the answers to these questions help the prospect engage and want to talk with you, but it also helps them persuade themselves. What's more powerful, Brandon? Me telling you to do something, or me asking you a question and you convince yourself and persuade yourself?
The latter, number 2, 100%.
Right. So where we start in the beginning of a conversation is we build rapport and we connect. So a connection question is the first level of that, right? So what I'm going to do is just list the 6, and then maybe we can go into a brief kind of definition of what each is and maybe a few examples. So it starts out with connection questions, then situation questions, problem awareness questions, solution awareness questions, consequence questions, and commitment questions. So these questions are predicated on behavioral psychology and how people make decisions. Behavioral psychology proves that people make decisions 100% from an emotional state, and then they justify those decisions with logic and reason. One of the biggest fallacies in sales is that salespeople typically find the problem and then they're like, boom, here's the solution. So they skip a lot of steps and they don't probe and ask clarifying and probing questions to dive beneath the logical base surface level to find the problem, how long it's been going on, what is the root cause of that problem, and most importantly, what is the implication and impact that that problem is actually causing and having on them. That's the pain. You have to find the pain, and then that pain is what you're actually solving for with your solution. This will allow the client to be able to find their own internal drivers and compelling reasons to buy, right? So the connection questions is really just about, you know, opening up the conversation, establishing trust, and building rapport, right? Most salespeople will be like, "Hey, how's your day going?" And what that automatically does is it creates a screen and a barrier and creates sales resistance because every other salesperson on the planet is saying, "Hey, Brandon, how's your day going?" And that's not how you do it. A better way to do it is like, "Hey, Brandon, Josh Mathis over here, Sales Transformation Group. Listen, we have a call today at 1 o'clock. Just want to check and make sure now's a good time for us." Yeah, okay, great, it is. Well, perfect. So really the nature of this call, Brandon, is just to, find exactly out what you're looking for and maybe taking a look at what you've tried in the past and trying to see kind of where you're at versus maybe where you'd like to be and kind of seeing what that looks like just to see if we can actually help at all. Does that sound okay? And they're like, yes. Okay, cool. So Brandon, just tell me a little bit about like what originally brought you here and what you might be looking for. And then boom, I'm not asking them about the deer head on their wall. I'm not looking at stuff in the room and saying, "Hey, talk about this and talk about that." Nobody cares about that. All they care about is what you can do for them, right? The situation questions are essentially like, what is their situation? What are they currently doing, right? What's their business model? What are their, like, how many salespeople do they have? Like, whatever the situation is, they got to get a current situation so you can help them discern based off where they are to where they want to go, right? And that's going to create a bridge, and your solution is going to be the bridge to get them from where they are to where they want to be. And what vehicle do you have that you can help put them in to get them from point A to point B, right? You'll spend a lot of time in the next two phases, problem awareness and solution. Like the problem awareness is really about asking the right skill questions at the right time to help them to want to engage with you, open up, and start talking about what they've tried in the past, what the actual problem is, what is the root cause of the problem, what's causing it, and then what's the impact that and the implication that problem is causing them in terms of emotional pain, so that we can probe deeper, pull out the emotion, bring it to the surface, and actually talk and find more compelling ways on why they should actually solve for that, right? So a problem awareness question, be like, okay, so it sounds like, you're looking for some marketing and, but like, what have you found what have you like tried in the past to maybe, solve for that, lack of leads problem, right? Okay, cool. How long has that been going on? Okay. And like, are you okay with like the way you're currently going about X, Y, and Z? One thing I want to point out here is notice my skepticism and tonality in my voice. I'm also being detached from the outcome. Most salespeople have this neediness, salesiness about them, and that's what creates the resistance in the first place. So when you have this almost detached, almost curious, almost skeptical type of approach, you come across as, tell me more about that. And it's an inquisitive type of curiosity that will want them to lean in because they feel like you actually understand what they're saying, right? So I'm going to stop right there because I don't want to give you all of the tools in the toolbox. But yeah, if we'd like to expand on any of those things or maybe go deeper in a few areas, I'm open to that.
Cool, dude. Amen. That's huge. Okay, so I have 1 connection, 2 situation, 3 problem awareness, 4 solution awareness, 5 consequences, and 6, one more time?
Commitment questions.
Commitment questions. I like it. Dude, that's huge. Woo! Okay. So that was huge. Yeah, connection questions, not just talking to them about the deer head behind them or trying to just BS and everyone knows the BS detector's going off. actually just diving right into it, being professional, setting the agenda, being skeptical and, curious tone, and that using that tonality to set the agenda and ask them if that's okay with them, and boom, they're all in. Okay, permission to proceed. And then learning about their situation, their current situation, ask them if they're okay with that, and then discovering if how are things going, and asking if they're okay with things continuing to go in that
Yeah, what's the
direction. And
problem? What's the problem?
yes,
Like, what is the actual problem? Right? Because if they didn't have a problem, then they wouldn't be on the call with you,
right,
right?
right. What
Because
what brought you here?
they have, so the next phase would go into solution awareness, and this is about what is their overarching goal? Like, where are they trying to go? And the problem awareness is what's keeping them from getting there on their own.
Mm,
Because if they could solve for it on their own, then they would not be here. If there's no
they wouldn't be here.
problem there and there's no pain, there's no sale. So if they don't have a big enough problem and a strong enough pain, then there's no driver to take action. So
Yes.
that's where the consequence comes in. Consequence questions is really predicated on helping them make a connection that it's actually more risky for them to stay in their current stuck position than it is for them to actually make a change. Because sales is all about one thing. What is that? What is the number one thing that sales is all based on?
Solving a problem.
That's what most people say. Sales is about one thing, and that's making a change. If you
Mm,
cannot help a customer see that it's more risky for them to stay stuck than it is to making a change, then there is no sale to be made.
boom. Making change. I love, dang, to yeah, them thinking you it's like their problem maybe is swept under the rug, and you're kind of bringing it out and helping them see it's actually a serious issue if you continue to stay here. And up till now, they're probably got the blinders on that it's maybe not that big of a problem, but then through a uh, intelligent conversation, you're able to bring it up and actually, if you're good, help them realize that staying where they are is actually more risky. That's, dude, that's huge. That's huge. So that's consequences. Uh, okay. So, dude, that's amazing. You're giving us a sneak peek. Are you telling us that we're gonna have to tune in to STG to hear more, or I don't know? Let me know where we're at.
I'm thinking, man, that it would probably make sense if they're looking for more, then they can get in contact with me and we can have a more realistic conversation based on like what their needs are and what they might be looking for and see if we can help.
Okay, I love it. Hey, the fact that you've even given us that much shows that you know what you're doing. And if you're listening right now and you're like, whoa, that is game changing, then definitely we're going to want to continue this conversation. Awesome. So thank you so much for that. We got the framework at least there. So let's write that down, listeners. That's it. And for those of you that want to learn more, you can definitely connect with Josh. We'll get his links here in a bit. But moving on to question number two. And question number two is going to be, what is a super tip that will boost closing rates big time? And when I ask that question, it's kind of one of these, like just the tonality that already was one, that is a kind of an underlining that goes throughout the sales conversation. That's going to probably increase your conversion rate just by having that skeptical, detached from the outcome kind of tone. That was already one. Do you have something else just like that, or do you want to speak more into that?
I think that's going to be a big part of it. Tonality is going to be tonality and body language. Think about it this way. Um, Psychology, behavioral psychology suggests that it's not what you say, it's how you say it. So most of the things that are communicated are nonverbal, right? So from a tonality standpoint, tonality is it's not what you said, it's how you said it. So you have to be very careful about, matching people's energy, meeting them where they're at, and the tonality is going to be the best model to be able to follow through that. So tonality, I'm just going to set that one aside because I'm going to come back to it and tie it back in. But I think the best you have to have a process to follow that's proven and repeatable, and you have to learn the right skills and ask the right skilled questions at the right time. I think that's first and foremost. Some of these higher level sales skills come into play, but you really have to listen. Most salespeople talk. One of the best advices I ever heard early on in my sales career, David Gowdlock, my sales manager at Total Comfort Solutions, told me, and this flipped a switch in my brain forever. He goes, Josh, the day, the moment, the second that you learn to be interested instead of interesting, your life will change forever in sales. So what that got me to do is become a better listener, and actively listen. Be present, be engaged, listen, repeat back to people and summarize what they said to get them to what I call a that's right moment. To where I articulate back to you exactly what you said almost verbatim, to where the other person's like, yep, that's right, or exactly, or you've nailed it. Yep, that's it, you got it. Something around this neighborhood, right? So actively listen, clarify, probe, repeat back and summarize what they said. And do that from an angle of skepticism and in a way that is that uses mirrors and labels, right? A mirror is repeating back to someone 1 to 3 words in what they just said. But what it does is it creates space for them to say, hey, I heard what you said, I repeated it back to you, but I need more information without actually having to say it. But hey, I'm looking for some more. I'm looking for more marketing. Looking for more marketing? Yeah, yeah. I was just saw an ad, and I'm looking for more inbound lead generation and doing this, that, and the other. And like, okay, so like looking for more marketing. Okay, so you're sounds like, and then I repeat back to them exactly what they've just said, and they're like, "Yep, that's right." And then I can transition and move on and ask another follow-up question to be able to further clarify, further probe, and then shampoo, rinse, and repeat that. And what it does is it opens them up and gets them takes the pressure off of you talking and puts the emphasis of the attention of the conversation on them. People love talking about themselves. So once you get them to a state, now you've invited them into a warm conversation. You're asking questions that are relevant and important to them. And now the focus is on them, not on you. And it lessens the barrier of resistance, and they want to engage with you.
Thank you, Christian Contractor family, for hanging out with us today. Let's get out there, do great work, and make a positive impact. If you want to connect with Brandon, head to Instagram and follow him at BG44. Let's change not only your life, but the world around you.